from the Wiley Vision studio in Spokane, Washington. The Stephen James Wiley Show. American Septic, proudly serving Phoenix, Arizona and surrounding areas since 1953. At A American, we can pump, clean and repair your current septic system with ease. Or we can design and install a brand new state-of-the-art system. No matter the problem, our crackerjack crew of expert technicians have got you covered. Every Jack, Jill, and Diane gets a thrill when they hear the A American pump truck coming up the road. A American Septic. Find us on the World Wide Web at aamericanseptic.com. That's aamericanseptic.com.
Hello, hello, hello. Heavy weather brewing in number 17, and no mistake. What movie is that from? Mary Poppins. You're right. Good job. I knew you'd figure that one out. Welcome to the Stephen James Wiley Show. It is me, your host, loving you from the bottom of my heart. I hope you're having a great day. I'm having a lovely day. I have some football going on in the background. Right now, the Buffalo Bills are steamrolling the Denver Broncos. You know what? And I could care less because I'm not much of an AFC guy, but I'm thoroughly impressed with the power and general excellence of the top-tier AFC teams. Buffalo, Chiefs, Ravens. I don't know how you compete with that. I'm an NFC guy. I have been since the Seahawks went to the NFC. I'm a Seahawk fan, which means I have no one to root for. I'm not sure who I'm rooting for. The NFC has good teams. The Lions are good. I'm rooting for the Lions. That's who I'm rooting for. Why? Because they've sucked for my whole life, and before I was born, they sucked. So the best days were Barry Sanders, and Wayne Fontes was the coach in the 90s. So Dan Campbell, the Lions. I'm a Lions fan this year. Does that mean I hate the other teams? No. I like the Bills. I'd love to see the Bills win. It'll be a tough one. If the Bills are in against the Lions, that'd be rough. Do I want to see the Eagles do good? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, they've been good for a while. I don't know. But I'm rooting for the Lions. A fun story. When I was 10, 12? Can't remember. I think 12. My family, we went to Hawaii. My dad doesn't fly, so it was a miracle that we went to Hawaii. And the flight to Hawaii probably is why my dad only flew one more time since then in the last, 35 years or 30 years. And the flight he took after that was horrible. We dropped like 1,000 feet in the air on our way to Hawaii to see the Pro Bowl. And we went to the Hilton Hawaiian Village on the north side of Oahu, and all the players were staying there. And my grandpa and grandma came. They're both passed away now, and my grandpa was a very charismatic guy. And he was always was in a wheelchair because he couldn't walk he could walk, but he couldn't get around super great, so it was always helpful to have a wheelchair or a motorized cart. He has a little scooter. So anyhow, I met Barry Sanders. I met Wayne Fontes. I ran down the hall alone with Barry Sanders. And he just looked at me like, "What are you doing here?" And I had my little 110 camera. It's not a 35 millimeter. It's like the super, geez, none of you are going to know what I'm talking about. It was a slim camera, like a rectangle. Anyhow, and there was no focus or anything. You just took your pictures, right? So anyhow, and I just come up next to him. I smile at him. I take his picture, and he's looking at me like, "Who the hell are you?" But he wasn't mean or anything. And then I just turned around and ran down the hallway. Yeah, fun story. And my grandpa met Jerry Rice. He literally calls Jerry Rice across the lobby of the hotel. Jerry! Jerry! And my grandpa was the best. Like, super charismatic. Everybody loved my grandpa. He was the nicest guy. And then at the same time, he's like a handicapped old man. So everybody loves a very friendly, nice, handicapped old man. If you don't like a handicapped old man who's friendly and loving and charismatic, you're an asshole. So everybody loved my grandpa. And Jerry Rice walks across the lobby smiling at my grandpa like he's known him his whole life. And Grandpa, how you doing, Jerry? How the hell are you? It's good to see you. You know, it was wonderful. I took pictures with Clyde Simmons. I was a big Eagles fan at the time. Clyde Simmons, Seth Joyner, the vaunted Eagle defense that was so badass. Great story. I didn't mean to go down that rabbit trail. Where was I? Football, Eagles, Barry Sanders, Lions, 90s. The Lions have not been good except for that. And that was the year they made the playoffs. And then they went downhill from there. So anyhow, I'm rooting for the Lions. God bless the Lions, Dan Campbell, all the talented athletes on that team. So what are we doing? Why are we here? Why have we congregated, hearts united as one? I have a segment I want to do. I want to do a Boob of the Day. Why? Because I just want to hear the theme song. But I had a thing I read that then led me down this rabbit trail of an expanded story and just stuff that I think is fascinating and some people I really think are amazing. So there's going to be the Boob of the Day. I hear the song. It's firing up. Here's Julius Eckelman and the Frankfurt Harmonic to sing us in.
I'm thinking about boobs every Saturday morning. I'm thinking about boobs even when I go to bed. I'm thinking about boobs every Saturday morning. And when I wake up, it's 'cause they're smacking me on my head.
All right. Today's Boob of the Day goes to the legendary Colonel Tom Parker. But he's not alive, Steve. He's not the Boob of he's a historic Boob of the Day. Does it really matter? It's a great thing I found, and I didn't know this. And you can't actually find this record. It's an Elvis record that Colonel Parker made. So 1974... Colonel Parker, in an effort, as always, to procure money, which, you know what, there's nothing wrong with that. Now, he might have gone a little far. So he made a record of Elvis talking. Just clips of it's called Having Fun with Elvis on Stage. And the angle that he had for it was that RCA Records didn't have any rights to a record that didn't have any singing on it, any music. And so I'll read you just a blurb here. Having Fun with Elvis on Stage is a 1974 spoken word concert album by American singer and musician Elvis Presley, consisting entirely of dialogue and banter. I did find it for us, so I'll put the link in the show notes. It's on YouTube. Mostly jokes by Presley between songs during his live concerts, with songs themselves removed from the thing. The album was created as a ploy by Tom Parker to release an Elvis album on his own label, Boxcar Records, without using content that contractually belonged to RCA Records, so that Parker could earn 100% of the profits. Let's be clear, it was split between him and Elvis. They tried to make him out to be even worse than he was. But it was sold exclusively at Elvis's summer shows in Las Vegas in 1974, but then RCA later claimed the rights to the recording and packaged and distributed it themselves, pretty much exactly the same way Tom Parker had, but because they had the rights to all sound recordings, not just music, of Elvis. And does it really make Tom Parker a boob? No, yes, kind of. He kind of just was. And it's a tough one because Elvis wouldn't be Elvis without Tom Parker. We wouldn't know. I love Elvis. My grandma loved Elvis Presley. And if you don't love Elvis, you should. He was a really beautiful human. Did he screw up? Did he die, do too much drugs and things and all that? Sure. And he could have had a better life probably, but he made his choices, right? I just think it was a fascinating story. I didn't know anything about it. So I found the record, Having Fun with Elvis on Stage. It's on YouTube. You can find it. I'll put the link in the show notes so you can click it there as well. And I would say, and I think it's one of the fascinating things about it, because at the 8-minute mark, between 8 and 11 minutes in that window, Elvis actually really shares some personal stuff about how he got to where he went in his journey. He was a truck driver, like driving trucks as a teenager, and then just went in and sang on this record for a guy in Memphis, and then it became a thing. So, I mean, talk about chance. And I mean, back then, going and singing in a recording studio, most towns didn't have that. Most cities hardly had that. And then it just, dominoes start falling. It's just interesting how life goes. And when you don't have a plan and you're just, Elvis was just being himself. And then he went on and spent years actually performing, but not having great success, playing carnivals and all kinds of different things. And then, and you'll hear him. Go listen to it. It's really fun. It's just 3 minutes of the thing. And then Tom Parker finds him, and then suddenly he gets, he's on the Steve Allen Show and Ed Sullivan and all that. And then he joins the military and onward and onward. And you can go watch the movies and all the rest of it. But it was a boobish thing because Tom Parker had a hunger for the dollar. And I think the knock on Tom Parker was he took 50% of everything Elvis made. And that's an unheard of split for a manager. I think it's at best 30, maybe 15, depending on who you are and what you do. Now, you could make the argument that Tom Parker was a very unique figure for Elvis, and maybe he deserved 50% because Elvis wouldn't be nothing without him. I don't know. It's the classic conundrum of talent, management, and good fortune smiling on you. There's a lot of talented people the world doesn't know existed. There's a lot of talented people right now that are more talented than anyone you know. And none of us know who they are, and we might never know who they are because that's just not how the cards played out for them. Or they didn't do the things to be in the place to have the great thing happen. It's bananas. My grandma and grandpa wanted to put me on the Johnny Carson show when I was a kid because I played drums and I sang Elvira by the Oak Ridge Boys, and they thought I was a phenom. Was I? No, probably not. But I appreciate their faith in me, and I hold that in my heart to this day. One day I'll be on Johnny Carson, you guys. You just wait. Oh, so then this led me down this rabbit trail, right? So I'm looking. I literally watched half of the Elvis Having Fun YouTube. Hang tight. Eat some ice water. God, I'm addicted to ice water. It just invigorates. Which led me to a story that I thought about regarding Tom Parker of Jerry Weintraub. Now, let me give you a quick thing on who Jerry Weintraub was. He's, I'm just going to read you a blurb from his Wikipedia page. Jerome Charles Weintraub. His story is phenomenal. I listened to his entire book. He reads it on Audible. It's freaking amazing. He passed away in 2015. Jerome Charles Weintraub was an American film producer, talent manager, and actor whose television films won 3 Emmys. He began his career as a talent agent, having managed relatively unknown singer John Denver in 1970, developing Denver's success through concerts, television specials, and film roles, including Oh God. Remember that? George Burns. Weintraub has been credited for making show business history by being the first to organize and manage large arena concert tours for singers. Among other performers whose tours he managed were Elvis Presley, which is a miracle considering Tom Parker ran that show, Frank Sinatra, The Four Seasons, Neil Diamond, Bob Dylan, Led Zeppelin, Three Dog Night, and The Carpenters. The Carpenters, yes. Following his years as a concert promoter, he began producing films. Among them were director Robert Altman's Nashville, 1975, Barry Levinson's Diner, 1982, the first 5 films from the Karate Kid franchise. I didn't know that. As well as the remake Ocean's 11, 2001, and its 2 sequels. Later, he executive produced the HBO series The Brink and HBO's Behind the Candelabra in 2013, which won an Emmy. In 2014, he won another Emmy for co-producing Years of Living Dangerously, a television documentary about global warming. In 2011, HBO broadcast a documentary about Weintraub's life called His Way. Super frustrating. HBO made this documentary, and it is not on HBO Max. I know, it's called Max now, but I don't do that because it's stupid. It's HBO. It's a better brand. I'm not buying into their crap. So it's not on HBO. You can't stream it. I don't know why. It's dumb. It's their friggin' intellectual property. So you can rent it somewhere. I'm going to probably end up renting it at some point, or hopefully it'll just come back on there and I can watch it because I'd like to watch it. This guy inspires the crap out of me. I want a Jerry Weintraub in my life to help me with my creative work. Everybody does. He's a Jewish guy from Brooklyn. You can never have enough Jews in your life. Never forget that. I love the Jews. So that's who Jerry Weintraub is. Now the story is, there's this amazing story of how he ended up promoting Elvis concerts, right? Which it's so interesting. And I'm going to read you a very long little interview piece. And just indulge me. If you don't want to listen to it, fine. God bless you on the journey. But the story that with Tom Parker was, he's doing all this stuff, but they had all the merchandise sales for Elvis at his shows was a side racket, right? It was its own entity. If you're not a business person, they would have LLC or companies that did this, companies that did that. So the money, which in those days, it wasn't credit cards. It was cash, man. It was the 70s. To run a credit card, you had to do that thing where you're sliding a paper receipt and the transaction has to get mailed in. And there's nothing digital. There's no, dialing up to the main central hub of Visa or Bank of America. It's all cash. So the end of the night, there are buttloads of cash. And Weintraub, everyone takes umbrage. I just wanted to use that word. Everybody takes umbrage with Colonel Parker. They don't like him. They want him to be the villain. In that last Baz Luhrmann Elvis movie, which was fantastic, Parker's the devil. He's the bad man who wants to make money. Well, you know what? That's kind of fucking life at some point, all right? So just lighten up. Yeah, was he not the best guy? Probably. Was he a bad guy? I don't think so. I think there's a lot of gray, and he was dancing in the gray. And Weintraub felt like he was super honest, way above board in all his dealings with Jerry. So he calls Jerry, says, hey, you need to come up to this hotel room. And in the hotel room, Jerry walks in, and the hotel room is full of cash, full of money from all the sales of merchandise, records, everything from the concert that night. And it's an insane amount of money. I don't remember what the number was. And Elvis is in the room too. And Colonel Parker says, hey, and here's the thing. Nothing in Jerry Weintraub's agreement with Colonel Parker had anything to do with merchandise. Jerry had nothing. He was not entitled to anything. He's like, my contract that was their thing. Had nothing to do with me. And the colonel calls him in. He's like, sees all this money. Elvis is like, hey, and he says, this is all our merchandise money for the night. You grab your third. Elvis is going to grab his third, and I'll take my third. And he said, well, no, you guys, I don't have any. I'm not entitled to any of this. This is all your guys' money. I appreciate that. That's very kind. And Colonel says, no, you're in business with us. You get your third. And Elvis agrees and says, hey, you're the reason this is happening. You're the guy who made this whole show come off beautifully. You're entitled to a third of merchandise because you're in business with us. And for the whole tour, that's how they did it. And they split up the money. Cash, baby. Can you imagine? And he's taking suitcases of cash home, which, that'd make me uncomfortable, but it'd probably make me pretty happy too. So I just thought, that's a fascinating story at the very least. If you like it, I like it. I think it's just cool. I think it shows that the colonel had an above board side to him. He also had a gambling problem and clearly didn't always look out for Elvis' best interest. But here is another story, though, that I want to relay because it's kind of the story. It's the Jerry Weintraub story of how he ended up doing what he did with Elvis. And I just think it's fantastic. And I'm a spiritual cat. You know that if you know anything about me. I love spirit. And Jerry was a mystical guy. He was a big follower of this Jewish mystic guy, Rabbi something or other. Hold on. I want to find his name. Where was he? Rabbi. Come on. Oh, shoot. I can't find it. You can look it up. Here we go. So this is the story. It's from an interview in Australia, but I just found a printout of it on the interweb. It says, "Thank you for allowing us to interview. Tell us how you first began your work with Elvis and Colonel Parker. How did it come about?" And this is Jerry's answer. I will read it word for word as transcribed. "Well, I don't want to sound too spiritual about all this, but I'll tell you the story, and it's the true story. It has never been told publicly. I was in business at RCA Records with some people that are no longer with that place. A fellow named Harry Jenkins who worked with Elvis down in Nashville, and some other people that worked with him, Steve Scholes, etc., etc. I was living in New York on 54th Street down 5th and 6th Avenue, and I went to sleep one night, and I got up in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning. I got up and I said to my wife, I just had this crazy dream. She said, what? I said, I saw a sign in front of Madison Square Garden that said, Jerry Weintraub presents Elvis. And she said, that's crazy. That's nuts, you don't know Elvis. You don't know Colonel Parker. How do you expect to do this? I'm telling you, I said, God sent me a sign that I'm going to do this. I do believe in God very strongly. I believe in God. I'm a very spiritual person, and I talk to him all the time. Anyway, I started to call Tom Parker, who was Elvis's manager, every morning at 8:30 in the morning. He was always up at 6 in the morning. I used to call him every morning. Good morning, Colonel. This is Jerry Weintraub. I want to take Elvis on tour. And every morning he said to me, what are you? You're crazy. Why do you keep calling me here? You're wasting your money. First of all, he said, Elvis is not working. That's to begin with. At the time he wasn't. He was doing movies. Second of all, if we were working, I have lots of promoters I owe dates to. I have lots of producers I owe dates to. And it's not going to be you. It's never going to be you. This went on for 1 year. Dude, that's tenacity. You want something in life? That shows you what it might take. Finally, one morning he said to me, you still want to take my boy on tour? I said, yes. He said, okay, you be in Vegas tomorrow at 11 o'clock in the morning with $1 million, and we'll talk a deal. The fact of the matter was that $1 million in those days to me belonged to the Rockefellers and the Fords and those kind of people. I never thought that, where would I go to get $1 million? $1 million was like reaching for the sky, but I said, okay, I'll get it. I'll be there. I hung up and I said to my wife, you see, I told you I was going to get Elvis Presley. She said, well, you got one little obstacle here. You owe the bank $65,000 as it is. Where are you going to get $1 million? And I said, I'll get it. I'm going to get it. And I went to all the people that I knew in show business and out of show business, and they used to smack me on the back and they would say, listen, kid, you're going to do really great. You're going to make it, and so on. And then I said, loan me some money. I want to have this deal with Elvis Presley. I need $1 million, you know? People thought I was either on drugs or smoking something. They thought I was nuts because I was a kid and low. And behold, I stayed on the phone all night. And I went to Vegas to continue my calls so I can meet the Colonel at 11 a.m. At 8:30 the next morning, I finally made a connection through a lawyer in New York who knew a guy in Seattle, Washington, who was a big Elvis fan and owned radio stations. And he said to me, I think this guy might do it. I said, you don't understand. I got 2 hours. It's not might do it. It's I got 2 hours. I don't have time for papers. I don't have time for anything legal. I need $1 million now. Cash money. I have to meet Tom Parker at the International Hotel in Las Vegas. I said, I have to be there. That's where he's going to be. He's going to be at the roulette table where he spent many hours of his life, and I have to find him and give him the $1 million. So he said to me, let me get a hold of the guy. So we got the guy on the phone, and I spoke to the guy, and I said, can you please send me the $1 million right away? He said, well, what am I going to get for it? This is the radio guy in Seattle. And I said, I'll give you half the money that I make in the concert business forever. And he said to me, half of everything you make? I said, yeah. Now, little did I know that I was going to become the number one guy in the concert business. I had everybody, you know. I didn't know that at the time, you know, but I made a deal with him. He sent me the $1 million, but it was late getting there, and it was at the Royal Bank of Las Vegas. I remember it had a purple coloring with a gold crown on it, a bank, you know. It was perfect. And I went down to the bank to pick the $1 million up, and I walked in and asked for the $1 million. They thought I was nuts, you know. I said, I'm Jerry Weintraub. I have $1 million coming. You know, I was a kid, and I had sideburns, and I was wearing a pair of jeans and cowboy boots. And I looked at as much like $1 million coming as the man on the moon. And finally, a fellow came up from the bank, young man, and he said he was the president of the bank, and he said, what can I do for you? I thought at that point, they figured I was going to rob the place, you know. I said, I have $1 million cashier's check coming made out to Elvis Presley, and I need to get it. I'm waiting for it. And he said, well, okay, sit over there. About an hour later, I now called the Colonel and pushed my meeting to 2 o'clock. I said, it's on its way. The money is on the way. I just need a little longer. And he said, okay, I'll give you till 2. So the money came in, and this fellow came out the back, the president. He says, can you come into my office? He said, there's a check for you for $1 million made out to Elvis Presley. I can't believe this, I said. That's what I'm waiting for. Can I have it? He said, yes. What are you going to do with this? I said, I'm going to take Elvis Presley on tour. And he said to me, can he use an accountant? I'd like to leave here and go with you. And I said, well, look, we'll discuss that some other time. I got to take this money and get to the Colonel. The guy was so excited at the bank that he gave me a cashier's check which is cash. I didn't sign anything. I never signed anything. That's nuts. He was so excited. I was so excited that I forgot that I didn't sign anything because I knew at the moment in time I was the only young boy, you know, I was in my 20s that I knew in my life that I knew that my life had changed, that my life was never going to be the same because I now was going to be in business with the biggest star that had ever been. And I knew that my life was going to be different after that. I had a good life, you know. I had a lot of wonderful artists. I was working with a lot of people, but there was only one Elvis Presley. There was only one Frank Sinatra. There's only one Bob Dylan. And luckily, I worked with all those people. But Elvis was the only one. He was the original. You know, I grew up on his music, and I loved him, and it was like a bolt from heaven. I knew my life would never be the same. It was the moment. It was the defining moment, the most successful people's lives. There's a moment that just happens, and I knew it was going to be like that. So I got the money, went to the International Hotel, got to Tom Parker, and I found him. You couldn't miss him. He was sitting with a cigar and his cane, and he sat and his hat on, and he had more chips on the table than anybody else. And I said, I'm ready. I have the $1 million. I'm ready. He said, come on, son, we'll go up to my office. He took me up to his office in the International, and he said, let me see the $1 million. And I handed him the check. Now, I was so excited, and I didn't ask him to sign anything, so I gave him the check. He put it in the drawer and locked the drawer, and he said to me, what kind of deal you want to make? Now, I had no idea what kind of deal I wanted to make. At that time, he really didn't know what kind of deal to make because there was no real concert like this. They didn't do this back then. Like, what were we going to do? We were going to go out and play 15, 20,000 seat arenas. And that really wasn't done, you know, until we did it. And nobody had done that. Really, nobody had done the tour like that in the United States. we were going to really, because Elvis worked a lot. You know, he worked afternoon shows, night shows, all kinds of shows. And I was taken up to Elvis's suite to meet him. The Colonel took me up there. I never forgot the first meeting. Joe Esposito was there and Elvis's friends late in the afternoon. And I was taken in, and the Colonel said to Elvis, "Elvis, this is your new promoter. This is Mr. Weintraub." I was younger than Elvis. I was 3 years younger than him. And he said to me, "Oh, sir." The Colonel said, "He just gave me $1 million for you." And Elvis said, "Oh, thank you, sir. That's really great, you know." And we shook hands, and I said to him, "Is there anything I can do for you? You know, is there anything you want or anything I can do on the dates?" He said to me, "Look, I'm very, very easy. I like to have 6 Coca-Colas when I go to the building. I don't need a dressing room. We can have one there if you want it. You can put a curtain up. I don't care. I'm coming dressed, and all I want are all the seats full. We'll do what you..." I said, We'll do what you want and how much money you're going to make. Do you want to know how much money you're going to make? Jeez, God, here we go. And he said, "No, that's the Colonel's business. He'll take care of that. I just want you to tell me that you're going to fill all the seats, and I don't want to play to empty seats, and that's all." That's the only thing Elvis ever cared about. That with me, I mean, from the end, and to have his fans, the first 20 rows, and not have big shots. The first 20 rows, he wanted his people. That's cool. Anyhow, there's more to it, but that's kind of and then he gets into working with George Clooney and how all those people, Elvis always liked to have his friends and the real fans. He didn't care about, the fame as much. But I thought it was a fascinating story, and it's beautiful in its own way. Just the hustle, the tenacity. Jerry Weintraub, he's passed away now, lived a long, good life, died at 77. The Colonel, man, that guy lived till 87. He died in 1997. And his life is its own thing. He's a Dutch American, came into the country illegally. He was never a U.S. citizen. I don't know if he ever became a U.S. citizen. And he was called the Colonel because he was awarded the honorary rank of Colonel in the Louisiana State Guard because he helped campaign for Jimmy Davis to become the governor of Louisiana. So I always wondered, how do you get the name Colonel? You just give yourself that? Can I be a Colonel? I'm Colonel Steve. How you doing? Anyhow, that's how he got it. Colonel Parker, the boob of the day, but also a pretty fascinating guy. Jerry Weintraub, one of my heroes. I think the guy friggin' rocks. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it wasn't too long, but I don't care. I enjoyed reading it. It made my heart happy. So God bless you this fine day, you beautiful people. I love you all. Talk to you soon. Peace.